Hello, my name is Fru Nkimbeng, host of the African Hour, coming to you from LTC channel, LTC in Lowell on Market Street. Our special guest today is Senator Eileen Donoghue. Senator Donoghue, thank you very much for appearing on African Hour.
Thank you for inviting me, Fru. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you. Senator, while I arranged this interview, I sent information to the community to submit questions that I should ask you, and I have a list of the questions. So permit me, I would like to read the questions. One of the questions I would like to ask you is, what is a typical day for Senator Donoghue on Beacon Hill?
Well, thank you for the question. I can tell you, Fru, there are no typical days. I wish, sometimes there were. It's not a 9-to-5 situation, but as the state senator for the 1st Middlesex District, I represent the communities of Lowell, Tingsboro, Groton, Pepperell, Dunstable, and Westford. The day can vary from so many different activities, including meetings with many people as soon as I arrive on Beacon Hill. So, for example, I serve on a number of committees of the legislature. I chair the Committee on Tourism, Arts, and Cultural Development. I'm the vice chair of higher education, and I sit on a number of other committees, including telecommunications and utilities, economic development, and small business, and so forth. And so we have meetings all the time in connection with those committees. Sometimes there'll be hearings on bills that are scheduled. And so many times I will have to attend public hearings on bills or meetings in connection with my committee activity. We also meet on a regular basis with constituents or with groups who are interested in things concerning the district. Of course, we have a session with the legislature that can be scheduled when we're in formal session times. So from the minute I hit the State House, it is a situation where we are going constantly, and you often feel there are not enough hours in the day on Beacon Hill to get everything done that you have to do, as well as meeting with other legislators, the state representatives from Lowell. Oftentimes we'll have meetings, as well as the state representatives from the towns that I represent. And then, of course, the job doesn't end at 5 o'clock by any means. And so a great deal of time is spent back in the district attending meetings and functions and events representing the district at those various activities and events throughout the district in the city of Lowell, as well as the towns that I represent. So the day starts very early, fighting the traffic into Boston, and oftentimes ends late in the day. And then, of course, weekends are always occupied with activities representing the 1st Middlesex District.
Well, it seems like, as you said, your day starts by fighting the traffic. You enter the office, you just get on a very busy schedule.
Very busy schedule, and it's whether it's down in Boston or up here in the district. Either way, it's always a very busy day, and but it's one that I love doing. And you try your best to answer questions and meet with as many people, and try and work collaboratively with all concerned to try and address the needs of Lowell and the other communities that I represent.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
The next question is, what state programs are there to help struggling low-income families and those out of work to get through these tough economic times?
Yeah, that's a really important question, and one of the things we do know is that this has been one of the toughest economic climates in decades. Really, this recession, as we all know, has been the most serious since the Great Depression. And it has been a slow recovery from the recession. So though Massachusetts has done better in terms of unemployment rates and numbers than other parts of the country, we still have an unacceptable high rate of unemployment. And we've seen that rate creep up most recently in the past couple of months. And so, for folks out of work that I've met with, spoken with, know family members that have struggled with being out of work, looking for employment, it's very, very difficult. One of the things that I think the legislature and that was signed into law this past term concerned workforce development, and that's an important program that is going to add more capacity to the community colleges to provide workforce training for jobs. Oftentimes, we hear from people and companies that there's specified training necessary for particular jobs. In the reorganization in part of community colleges, the law that was passed in terms of that this past summer, there will be more monies dedicated toward workforce development. That's an important state program. Mm-hmm. Middlesex Community College here in the district that I represent does an outstanding job with training people for jobs and works together hand in hand with companies. This program is one that's going to be competitive, and so I fully expect Middlesex will be at the front of the pack in getting more resources in order to provide job training. There's also certainly other programs throughout the state agencies, and another local organization that does a tremendous job both in terms of workforce, housing, and all things in connection with those folks who are struggling through these hard times is Community Teamwork, located in Lowell. And they are also administer a number of the state programs, whether it has to do with, as I said, housing or daycare or those necessities that people need to have in place in order to get back to work. So those are two areas that I would point people to.
Thank you again. The next question from the community to ask you is, Lowell boasts a good diversity in their population mix, but the politicians and people that represent them either in the City Hall or at Beacon Hill are anything but diverse. What is your view on this?
That has been an issue, I think, in past campaigns. I know when I was on the City Council, then Councillor Rithi Ung was the first Cambodian of Cambodian descent or born in Cambodia to be elected to the City Council, and I served with Councillor Ung. And currently, Councillor Vesna Noon is a member of the City Council. Likewise, there's also only one woman on the City Council, and so it's an area that I think we need to do better and more work in. But I would suggest to anybody who is interested in politics, interested in working in elected politics here in the city of Lowell. Though it is a large city, it's certainly one that you can try and get known and get elected. I know when I moved to Lowell, I was not from Lowell and ran for the first time for any political office. I had never been involved in politics. So it's a lot of hard work. But what we find, whether it's almost anyone who does get elected to a public office in Lowell, has oftentimes been involved in other community groups before, so that their name is known throughout the community at large. I don't think there's anybody who's known in every single ward or precinct in the city. And so one way of doing that is by getting involved in things that you are interested in and enjoy, and that's another way of spreading the amount of people that know you and will support you. Beyond that, I think there are other things perhaps we could do for those folks who are interested. I know I've met with a number of people, both from minority communities and other communities alike in the city, who are interested in seeking public office. So what I try and do is mentor people who call me and ask for maybe some, advice or how to get started, and that's something I think all of us in public office should do as well when there are people who are interested, try and help out in that regard. But there are a number of organizations across this city that I think a lot of people are doing great work helping people, and I like to think of elected office here in the city of Lowell as being an extension of that, helping people in your community, in the city at large. So those are just some thoughts. I think we need to work more to bring people from minority communities, again, and also, as I pointed out, women into politics, from all walks of life.
I think that's very important what you have said, and it also it's good that people within the minority community should step up too and be proactive and run for office.
Because if you don't run, then obviously you can't win, and that's something someone pointed out to me a long time ago. You can't win unless you put your name on the ballot.
Yes.
And I think sometimes many people think, well, it's such a large city. I wasn't born and raised here. I didn't go to school here. My family wasn't born and raised here, and so it's going to be so hard to get elected. And though certainly that's one way of people gaining name recognition. You shouldn't be deterred and think that that's a barrier, that that's the only way. Because as I said, certainly in my own experience, that wasn't the case. I wasn't born and raised here either. But I did get involved with a number of community organizations prior to putting my name on the ballot. I didn't do it to get elected because I had no idea that I was ever going to run for public office. But by doing that, you knew other people from other parts of the city, and that's just a way of grassroots sort of getting known and working together with others, and then people get to know you and may be willing to support you for elected office.
I think thanks for that information. I believe our listeners and viewers will be encouraged. Those who want to go for public office should put their name out and get that recognition and come serve the people.
Absolutely, and if they need advice, they should feel free to contact people in office. As I said, they can contact me. I'm happy to talk to people and give them, for what it's worth, what my advice would be. And I know a number of my colleagues in government are very receptive to talking to people who are interested in getting involved, because it does strengthen the community to have more a broad base of support throughout this community.
That's true. Okay, next, the University of Massachusetts Lowell is undergoing tremendous transformation. Have you thought about how the change might impact the community atmosphere we have in Lowell, with more young men and women coming into Lowell?
Well, I think the transformation in terms of the university is a great thing, not only for the University of Massachusetts at Lowell, but I think it's a great thing for the city of Lowell. I've long thought that how the city does is important for the university, and vice versa. If you were looking to send your son or daughter away to college, you're going to be concerned about that. Is it a safe city that they live in? Is it a good community? Is it a good city? And so, though the university could do all the best things in the world academically for the students, there's still going to be that element of, I want to make sure my son or daughter is going to a place that is a good place to live and is a safe place to live. And likewise, from the city's perspective, I think the more work that the university does and the better reputation that it gains across the entire country, the better it is for the city of Lowell, because it's the University of Massachusetts at Lowell. So we have a joint interest in making sure that we are the best community and offer the best product, whether it's in education or jobs or just a place to live. So it's one area that I've long been a big supporter of in working in partnership with the university. And I think it's not just for the young men and women who are coming to the city to go to school, but I think it's also significant that we want to encourage those men and women who may be just coming to school to maybe think about staying here in this community and living in the city and getting jobs here and raising their families here, because that's, again, something that will strengthen our community for many years to come. So I think it's a very important thing, and both the city and the university need to do a great job working together to attract and keep those students here.
Okay, thank you. There is another question here that could you please explain what is safe, secure community really about, and how will secure communities impact local law enforcement and the immigrant communities?
Okay, thank you. The Secure Communities Act is one that, again, based on my understanding of it, is a federal legislation, and it became important on a more localized level. Massachusetts earlier this year, when there was some debate over whether Massachusetts was going to agree to enforce the Secure Communities Act through the Department of U.S. Homeland Securities, which is where this is coming from. I've spoken to a number of people, both here in the city of Lowell, as well as on the state level, including through the Public Safety Secretary for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And the situation, as I understand it, is this: that the implementation of the Secure Communities Act that's expected to be phased in all across the country next year, in the year 2013, will really not change the way anybody does business here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And the reason is as follows. In the city of Lowell, for example, as well as law enforcement across the country, what happens is if an individual is arrested for breaking the law or committing a crime, information about that particular individual is shared between the state authorities, the city, the state authorities, and with the federal authorities. So if someone is arrested, then that information is transmitted to the federal authorities. It's up to the federal authorities what they do with that information. That's how we've been operating here in the city of Lowell for a number of years. That's how the Commonwealth has been operating. Once an arrest is made for some criminal offense, then that individual's information is transferred to the federal government, so that the federal government can take whatever steps it deems necessary. Now, those steps may include commencing some type of, if someone's in the country not here without documentation or is here illegally, then they may commence an action or may not commence an action to deport that individual. I think it's important for the minority communities throughout the Commonwealth, and particularly here in the city of Lowell, to understand, and again, based on what I'm told by law enforcement, that by no means would people be stopped and examined or interrogated to determine if they're here in the country legally or not. That is not the meaning of the Secure Communities Act. It's only if somebody has broken the law and has been arrested for a criminal offense that then their information may be transferred to the federal government. So it has to be something separate and distinct. I think one of the concerns that the governor and others have had over is the idea of perhaps racial profiling or targeting people and stopping them just to inquire, are you here legally or illegally? What, do you have documentation? Do you not? That is not allowed under the Secure Communities Act, as I understand it, and so nothing will change. And I just want to let the community know that I've been assured that by our own local law enforcement, as well as on the state level. The Secretary Heffernan has made it clear that that will not change how they do business.
Okay, thank you for that answer. I think I was equally very ignorant as to its implication and what it meant. I think your answer will help clear and answer all doubts that other people have out there.
Yeah, and you can certainly understand people's anxiety about that, but it is, again, something that if somebody has been arrested for another offense, then that information may be transferred to the federal authorities, which could include the Federal Bureau of Investigation as well as ICE or the immigration officials.
Okay, thank you. What are your views in the recent spike in crimes in Lowell? are gang activities enjoying a new research? Do you think gang activities are enjoying a new resurgence in the city?
Well, we certainly have seen an increase in violence in the city in recent months. I know I met recently with the chief of police, Chief Lowell. I've spoken with city officials about this matter, as well as communities that are affected and people in the neighborhoods. It's a matter of grave concern when people are shot in either a drive-by shooting or what seems to be a random altercation at a convenience store. It's my understanding, again, that this is not necessarily a spike in new gang activity as much as it is the result of some gang members who were arrested several years ago and incarcerated. That some of those gang members have been released from prison recently, and some of the gang activity that we've seen reported in the news is a direct result of some of these older former and maybe current gang members seeking retaliation against maybe some of those folks who maybe landed them in jail. But that's something that the chief has imparted to some of us, that as opposed to new gangs forming or younger folks, and that's one of the concerns, that when youngsters become involved in gangs, that these are very much older participants, and some that are just returning from jail. Nonetheless, it's something that we need to be very vigilant about. The state police have pledged their support to work closely with Lowell's police on task force work concerning any gang activity as well as gun activity. And the Secretary of Public Safety for the Commonwealth has pledged her support as well to the City of Lowell. We came here and met some time ago and will continue to work together with the city just to make certain that we don't experience an increase in violence, because people have to feel safe in their homes, on the streets. We talk a lot about economic development, but unless people are safe, nobody wants to open a business or, buy a home if they're in a community that's not safe. So we intend to keep it safe.
Well, I think it's very, very important, because a safe city will attract people, it will attract job investors, and also to create jobs. So that is very important too.
It is critically important. I often felt when I was on the council, and especially now that I represent the City of Lowell on Beacon Hill, public safety is the cornerstone of all. And without public safety, all the other efforts for economic development or, improving your communities can go for naught unless you make sure that public safety component is strong, is reliable, and that people are safe in their homes, in the streets, to go to work, to send their kids to school. Nobody wants to be worried about their own personal safety or that of their loved ones.
Senator Donoghue, thank you very much. I'd like to remind my viewers that you are watching African Hour, and our special guest is Senator Eileen Donoghue. I have to ask you this question. As I mentioned, this African Hour, what is your message to young and old immigrants from Africa?
In a word, my message would be welcome. Welcome to Lowell. We're so happy to have, Lowell is a city of immigrants. That's the history of the city of Lowell. From its beginning, it was a city built by immigrants. It was a city inhabited by immigrants. And I'm very proud that Lowell, though it wasn't my home city where I was born, I was born in a city very similar to Lowell, but I'm very proud Lowell has kept that tradition, welcoming with open arms waves of new immigrants to this country. I think what is so important about Lowell is that each group that comes to this city adds to the fabric of the city. We think of Lowell as textile capital back in the days in our history, but the fabric of the city is made up of the people. And each community that comes and adds to the fabric brings so much of their heritage, of their rich traditions, of their culture, that we're so fortunate are shared with people of the city at large. I know we have many flag raisings on a weekly basis almost at the City of Lowell, where we honor the new in different communities from the past to up through the present. We share in the festivals. I know the African Festival is a wonderful time of great entertainment and family and food, especially the food. And this is something that, it enriches in our community. So as I said, it would be welcome. We are so delighted to have the African community become part of the greater Lowell community. And it's an exciting, vibrant community in which to live. And I always said you can go around the block and Lowell, really go around the world, because you see so many different cultures and traditions and heritages that we learn so much from.
Senator Donoghue, I don't think anyone can put it better than you just put it.
Well,
sometimes I say Lowell is the United Nation of the world.
It is. It absolutely is. And it's a wonderful aspect of Lowell. And I think we're just so fortunate that, as I said, when newcomers come to the city, they just add so much more. And it's just great, and it's an honor to represent Lowell.
Okay, Senator Donoghue, do you have any thoughts about moving Lowell High School to College Stadium area? Does Lowell qualifies for state financial aid?
That's a local issue. I know it's been discussed a number of years, years ago about moving it. I know there have been a lot of studies and a lot of folks who have looked at that. So I don't personally have any plans. That would be left to the local officials, the school committee, the city council, the ones who have to make the decision first for educational needs and of the students in Lowell, and then secondly, those who decide what taxpayers can pay. As far as being eligible for state financial assistance, yes, I would expect Lowell would be, under the School Building Assistance Program, eligible for funds, though not 100%. The percentage varies depending on the community and at the point of time that you apply. There's a long list of communities waiting to receive those school building assistance funds. So there would still be a portion that would have to be paid for by the taxpayers of the City of Lowell. If the city were to decide that was the direction they wanted to go, would certainly, and as well as my colleagues in the House in Lowell, I'm sure work with the city in order to work to try and get those funds. But we haven't heard that yet. I know there are people on both sides of that issue, and it has its pros and cons on both sides. But currently, there are no plans to relocate it that I'm aware of.
All right, thank you. Senator Donoghue, what is the difference between serving Lowell as a city councilor, a mayor, and now a state senator?
That's a great question. In many respects, there are a lot of similarities. I've always enjoyed representing people and trying to help people, and so there's many similarities. The people haven't changed, that much. Lowell is still the heart of my district, as well as the other towns and communities that I represent. So I represent all of the communities on Beacon Hill. But your question goes to Lowell. I think the difference is, when Lowell has needs on Beacon Hill, I was on the other side of the fence when I was on the city council and mayor, and that was going to the state and asking the state for funds. And now I'm on this side where we are trying to find the funds and appropriate the funds, which this term, as well as last year, the 2 years that I've been in the state senate, we were able to increase local aid to the cities and increase Chapter 70 monies to the schools, and so the result is the same. You want the best for your community. The role is a little different because on this side you're trying to find the money, on the other side you're asking for the money. But it's all, in order to make Lowell the best community it can be.
Senator Donoghue, thank you very much, and I think it's an honor for African Hour to have you on our show. and we want to thank you for your time. And I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Kristen, your administrative secretary, for scheduling this. I know your time is very busy. You are very busy. I couldn't say much, but I'd like to thank you very much for your time coming on African Hour. And I hope that our viewers have listened to the senator, and she has explained, answered your questions to the best that we want. So, Senator Donoghue, thank you very much.
And thank you, Fru, and I want to thank you and also let you and your viewers know, please don't ever hesitate to contact me at the State House. You can call or email my office at any time if you have any questions or concerns. We're there to work for you. And thank you, and it's an honor to be here.
Thank you very much. I want to use this moment to thank Senator Donoghue for appearing on the show, and also to thank the people who are manning the cameras and supporting me behind the scene. On camera 1, I have Mark Ducey, camera 2, Moses Ikirori, camera 3, Janet Cooper, and Victor Deliwayo. Director of the program is George DeLucas. Thank you very much.